Miggity mic check. Hi, friends. Host Eric here. And I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. Welcome. It's fun being here with me, live, in a video I call Typing People, The Aftermath.
Ooh. That's a good topic.
Well, yeah. It's a good topic because, I have the same thing happen to me over and over again. Not every time, but just about, it seems like. A lot of times, which is, people like to share with me their thoughts about the typing after the fact. And that comes in a couple of different possible ways. So usually after I type somebody, I'll get an email, and it comes as either one of two kinds of emails. It's either the kind that says, "Oh my God, I once was lost, but now I'm found. I finally understand things. I was so confused by those other people's wrong typings of me, and oh my God, goodness, Eric, you've saved the day by informing me about my type accuracy." That's one kind of email I get. The other kind of email I get is the kind that says, "I've got some uncertainties about the typing, and I want to stress, I don't have any problem with people having doubts about their typing. I like to discuss it with them before we're done even, and sometimes go on at quite some length. But the problem is, I often get individuals come in to the typing session who have a fair amount of experience, and not just you, dog. I didn't name you at all. You're naming yourself. You're calling yourself out. Okay, it is not just you.
Yeah, it's not. I can confirm this.
This is the last several people I typed have given me, and yours was not even the longest of the emails I received. So I want to talk about what it means and how people disagree with the typing I say at the end of it. Okay.
Oh, it's so cool. I like the change in the background.
Yeah, I figured out how to do the slideshow. I was doing it wrong before, that's why I didn't get it, but now I got it. So anyway, the thing is, one of the main objections I'll get in these emails, and again, this is not about any specific email I've received. I've received these from forever. This always happens. It was like I said, I'll usually get a follow-up email. It's one of those two kinds of emails. Either they agree with me and it's like, wow, everything makes sense now, or they still have doubts, or they have renewed doubts. The thing is this. When you are looking at correlates, things that you think are associated with INTJ, descriptions of things, and then comparing your own understanding of yourself against that description, that's not going to be a good way to understand whether you're a type, ultimately, for most people. And the reason for it is this. There's two problems. One, the type description, is going to, whoever wrote that type description means something when they said that. So when they say like ENTJs are very high achieving, they mean something by that. But whether or not you interpret it as they mean it is an open question. Now, the other reason is because when you evaluate yourself in terms of being high achieving, you may or may not be evaluating yourself against the right standard. So it's, of course, high achieving compared to what? Well, high achieving compared to an average mean conceived of among all types, let's say. But ultimately, the problem with those type descriptions in general is they are mistaking behavioral probabilities for ways to identify the source of those behaviors. And that's going to lead people astray all the time. So what I mean by that is the reason Ali is an INTJ had nothing to do with any description of him that I could give you that would be like a type description. So if I were to say, well, he's very solvency oriented. That's kind of a bridge statement. Like it's still a correlate, but it's linking a lot more closely to the function. It's still not going to be a good way to type somebody, because if I say, well, determine if they are utility oriented, that means different things to different people. If I ask a TE polar person to use utility to determine something, like find out if they're a utility person, they are so blind to TE that they don't really know even what it is or how to look for it. So they mistake utility for something else. On the other hand, if I'm talking to somebody who's utility in the foremost frame, they're going to be operating, if they're TE Dom, under the assumption that everybody fundamentally has utility as the ultimate frame, because we always frame things in terms of purpose. But they won't understand how conditionality interprets that differently, and so they may not see themselves as ultimately very utility oriented or solvency oriented, because they're not comparing against a mean. They're comparing against I guess their understanding of what it would look like to be maximally so, perhaps, so those things can be tricky. I typed a lady the other day as INFJ, and she came to the thing thinking she was INFP. Additionally, she had attained certification by a personality hacker. Okay, so this is the problem I have, right? Hi, Lawnmower. Hi, Zandy. The INFJ, emailed me saying, well, look, I've got these perceptions of FI, which were largely correct, and she thinks that, she's asking whether a given thing is an example of NI or an example of FI. Well, she's not an FI front stack person. She's FE front stack for a lot of reasons. She's FI is a hard one for me to explain or identify, It's like, how do I test for FI exactly? It's hard to say. How do I explain it exactly? Well, it's hard to say. But this woman was definitely FE. And I can justify that by saying things like, when I asked her about her relationship, that had ended before, a previous old relationship that had ended, and what was going through her head, like what were the salient considerations. She talked about how her parents would feel. She talked about how he would feel. She talked about everything about, other than, I never heard her say, like, whether or not I love him was a matter of consideration or anything like that. It was all FE stuff. And just, she seemed FE, for whatever that's worth. But, oh, I see. It's the wrong thing that I'm pushing. That's why. I'm trying to fix this to make myself less meowy. How much less meowy can you be? Can you be a lot less meowy than me? Let's see, is that better? Am I still like that, huh? Kind of see through. I guess my beard must be pretty green today. I've got a very green beard. Okay, let me reduce the smoothness. Wait, no, that's not gonna help. Maybe if I go like that a little bit more, I will. There, how about that? That's a little bit better. I'm still a little jiggly around the sides, but whatever.
Maybe.
Go ahead.
I wonder if it's like some kind of shadow casting.
Yeah, it's just I don't have it really set like perfectly up. Probably, like that would make it better, right there. And if we were to sort of point that down here a little bit more, would be better too. Hi, email anthrax. So,
Aww, you look so handsome.
For me, the aftermath of this whole every time I'm typing somebody or dealing with emails afterwards is this reality that I would have a difficult time answering any of these people's questions without explaining a whole bunch of stuff. It's like there's a lot of reasons why a given thing ought not be determinate or is either a contraindicative reality that ought to be washed out because it's just a correlate or something, or because it's not actually a good way to understand the thing, or it's drawn from an incorrect understanding of the function in general. So Evelyn asks, what's an example of fairness conflicting with truth? Well, anytime that all right, like here's a perfect example. One evening, Countess and maybe Lawnmower, maybe somebody else were having it out, and Countess was being consistently heavily abusive, and the other party, might have been Lawnmower, was being generally within the reins. And so, okay, if some point Countess said something that was just like it crossed the line too much, and I put her on timeout. Well, and the other party said something kind of similar, or in the same vein, and I gave them a warning. Now, in that instance, fairness dictated I should have put them both on timeout for the same offense. But the truth was, for holistic reasons, Countess much more deserved a timeout than the other party did. And so it was, for holistic reasons, reasonable for me to give that person a warning and to put Countess on timeout, who had long ago used up her warnings plus everybody else's. So, that's an example of truth and fairness conflicting. For me, I notice and care for how I feel, but I either don't care what the others are feeling or don't notice it or seeing it as unimportant. That's just me, though. I can care if my FI cares. Well, the thing is, I would say that that's an example of FI polar misunderstanding what FE is. I mean, FE polar misunderstanding what FE is. So FE is not caring about other people. It's not helping them, or it's not any of those things that people tend to think of it as being. It's an interface function that allows you to interface with a socially dynamic system that basically it's a strategy for dealing with life that says make as many allies and as few enemies as possible, and engage with your allies in ways that will assist you to make life go more smoothly or something. Holla back, Kiara Louise. Holla back.
Holla back, Holla back.
Indeed. So,
so serene, these backgrounds.
Well, there's supposed to be a bunch of other pictures I put in there, but I guess I must not have included them correctly. Let me see. Randomize playback. There we go. Okay, so now we got some more stuff in the mix here. We have more than just those few pictures. I guess it wasn't. Hopefully, you'll see a variety of different pictures now. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh, yeah. What would be an example of unhealthy, underdeveloped auxiliary FE? I mean, second slot tool function? Okay, so I don't really believe that there is an example of an unhealthy, underdeveloped function. I think that there are unhealthy, or I think there are unhealthy people who are in need of developing certain either understandings, approaches, or what have you. But I don't really think that functions can be unhealthy and underdeveloped. I would say that if somebody is using their second function in an unhealthy or underdeveloped way, it would mean that they're probably under a lot of ontological stress, by which I mean they're probably have people around them who are looking for them to make mistakes and bust their chops about it. Now, if that happens, you're going to stick to your tool function more because it's your wheelhouse, and you're going to take fewer risks, so you may try to avoid your third or something like that.
True.
When I say seeking the fourth, I mean simply that it's... So, do I mean seeking others who pay more attention in that way, or seeking the self to do so more? What I mean by seeking the fourth usually is on the aspect of the fourth function that's the same as the dominant function's natural aspect. Then you're going to want to delegate it to somebody else. You're going to want somebody else to do it. In fact, Rachel and I had a little moment yesterday where I got frustrated because I wanted Rachel to just put food in my hand, but neither of us are that kind of person, and it was a moment. It was just a moment where it was like, God, I don't want to make food. I don't want to figure this food thing out. I hate fucking food. And I just wish Rachel would just put food in my hand. And so we had a little, I said that to her basically, and she got sad, and then I got sad, and I would hardly call it a fight at all. Not anything of the sort. It was just me being hangry, basically. It was hangry Eric.
And I knew that too, I mean, I was... It's an insecurity of mine.
So, the thing is tool is what I call the second function. I call the second function the tool function. So, the thing is, if you're talking about your fourth function, why do you seek it? Well, yes, you do seek other people to do the physical aspects or some of the physical aspects of it. But on the other hand, I also seek it as a relief function, which is to say, when I'm not feeling very good emotionally, I probably need to nap, eat, take a bath, things like that. And additionally, we're seeking it in the sense that, one way to understand it is I'm an NE-DOM, which means I'm always coming up with ideas or saying things out loud or ideating in general. So as a consequence, what am I naturally, unavoidably not doing most of the time? Keeping track of or organizing the ideas I've already made. And that's why I've got my Google Docs thing, which is it's just like filled with countless documents of that I've forgotten about or whatever's half-started things and ideas that seize me at some moment, and I work on it one night and then totally forget about it forevermore. So the thing about that is, obviously, I would be most empowered if I had full support on that ground, which is say like some sort of staff to do all that stuff. But the idea that in socionics that, for example, you can get a single person to fill that role, and then that's why they're your dual, is insane. The kind of SI stuff I want to have done is all SITE stuff. It's all like, okay, I need a YouTube channel manager who's really on top of shit, and in general, an Eric's produce manager who just sort of gathers all the shit I do and renders it into more useful forms. So how would an INTJ see SE as relief? They would see it as if you go out and ride your bike or something like that, then you find yourself not in your head. That most of the time you find yourself too in your head because you are knowing all the time. If you're knowing all the time, what's the relief function for knowing? Doing. For me, what's the relief function for my action function, extrovert intuition, is it's a knowing function. SI is a knowing function. So, but remember that, like when I'm experiencing the sensations of my body, such as either my stomach hurts because I have to poo or something like that, that is a form of knowing. That knowledge is not always rendered into static objects. There is experiential knowledge as well. When I play the guitar and I am playing chords and stuff, I am using my experiential knowledge, my muscle memory of my fingers having remembered where the chords are. Is it true that I have an abstract understanding of the chords that I could describe to you in words where you put your fingers? Sure. I could say that a C chord is 0, 3, 2, open, 1. No, wait. 2, 0, 3, 2, open, 1, open. That's a C chord. I could describe it like that, but I don't have to think that before I play it, right? I have experiential knowledge that I've retained in my fingers. It's just they automatically go to the right chord. It's sarcasm, which relates to the title of the video, which relates to the title of this video. There's no sarcasm in this video's title, none whatsoever. Is your typology model most influenced by John Beebe's 8-function archetypal model? I've had other parties attempt to reduce it to that because it does involve front and backside functions, but you could easily say I took that from socionics as Beebe. What I did is I have read Beebe. I've read a bunch of stuff on socionics, probably more on socionics than anything else. I've read basic MBTI stuff as well, and a variety of other stuff on functions that have more or less made sense, you know. What I did was I figured out if we took all of these general ideas and the central notions that they're all supposedly expressions of, how would those central notions be expressed correctly? Which is to say, in a meaningful way, in which the distinctions between object of analysis and example of analysis, between process and object, between agent and object, between field and object and agent, all that kind of stuff is done right so that it makes sense and that you can actually test it and falsify it and all that kind of stuff, you know? So the model that I have, therefore, is it owes a lot to all of those things, and ultimately it made itself by simply eliminating what was wrong about everything. I didn't make it. I just eliminated what was wrong about everything, and then I had to fill in spots where, you know, there wasn't anything there to build off of. So, for example, obviously, there has to be some sort of distinction between the different fields here that nobody's talking about, that nobody thought about. Otherwise, you're just twiddling your finger in your butthole. So, of course, I thought about it, and I realized I didn't make up. I discovered, in some sense, that obviously there are 4 fields. I'm sure I'm not the first person in the world to think this before, but it's a necessary precondition to talk correctly about cognitive functions. I understood them to be examples of knowledge, deliberation, action, and interface functions. It's not something I read anyplace else, but it's necessary if you're going to get it right to have picked up on that reality. Again, not created. I picked up on that reality and corrected what was incorrect in the status quo. I like how my cup is see-through. It makes me see-through, too.
Yeah, it is? Oh, my gosh.
The green parts of it are see-through, I guess.
Funny. What time was Delilah born?
Probably about 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Yeah.
Cool. And what city?
It would be West Covina.
Cool, I'm actually doing it.
So, and here's the other thing. Let's say Ali Malik doesn't agree with me that that applies to him. So he said, well, how is SE a relief function? And I go, well, it's a relief function because you're stuck in your head with your knowledge function, and getting out and about and roller skating and bicycling and stuff lets you get out of your head. And that is a shift from where you are all the time, so it's a relief, right? Now, he may or may not agree that that applies to him. But of course, let's say he disagrees. No, that's not true. I don't view that as a relief function. I don't experience it that way. Okay, well, I'm, in general, hesitant to jump to embracing experiential knowledge that differs from empirical knowledge. So my knowledge is empirical. I'm basing it off of the data that I'm getting from people in the moment as I'm pushing and pulling on them. So it's like I have, for example, let's say a horse in front of me, and I'm poking at it, I'm smelling it, I'm petting it, I'm riding it, I'm checking its teeth, I'm looking at its tail, I'm looking at its mane, etc. But most importantly, I'm watching it run around, and I'm making notes about how it runs. And the fact that it runs like this means it can't be bipedal, it can't be a fish, it can't be a bird. It's got 4 legs, but it runs faster than me. It can run for a longer time. Okay, this is an INTJ. And then after the fact, they go back to home and they email me and they say, okay, but I'm having a problem with this horse notion because what you said was that horses like to run in the open field, and I don't really like to run in the open field. And I'm just like, okay. I mean, the thing is, this is why some third party has to type most people. It's because people are not very good at analyzing and understanding themselves because they don't enter into asking that question with the right kind of analysis to begin with. Like, for example, let's say I want to ask the question, hey, I don't identify with this description of INTJs. I don't want to talk about that. Well, first they should say, why don't I identify with this description? Is it possibly because, what would it mean to identify with it? If it's a description that says something like, INTJs have SE as a relief function, well, you're going to maybe think, but I hate SE. Most people feel that way with their 4th slot consciously, explicitly, especially when young. I do anything to avoid that. Most people think that way with their 4th slot. You know, when you look at my behavior, you'd say, but Eric, you hate SI. You do everything in your power to avoid it. You moan and groan about how you're going to have to put something in the microwave because you're that goddamn avoidant of making food. How can you possibly say it's a relief function? Well, you see the challenges I face, right? When you're in front of me and I'm watching you run everything, I can explain to you that you're a horse. Definitely a horse. And there's no disputing it. When you get home and you look at static descriptions of a horse, you might come up with reasons why you don't match that static description. But it says here, most horses here are at least 16 hands tall, and I'm only 15 hands tall. Therefore, I can't be a horse. No, you're just a slightly shorter horse, you know? The point is, the idea that I would try to be better able to convince you that you're a horse when you're at home and I'm not looking at you than when I am is insane. Those kind of objections always occur where people will find something that they think doesn't correlate exactly with their type. But the point is, a type is not a description of a person, or it is in fact a description of cognitive habits, of attentional habits. So the reason you're an INTJ is because you are a universal knower first and a particularist interfacer second. That makes you an INTJ. How that actually looks per individual, there's going to be a fair amount of variance there. Not infinite variance, but that's the thing. If you're looking for specific things that are inconsistent with your type, then to do it properly is to look for things that are inconsistent with you being a universal knower first and a physical interfacer second. But to find things inconsistent with that, you need to really understand what those two things mean, and these descriptive correlates that you're finding or other objections with these words or those words as being consistent with your experience are not good reasons to think I'm wrong, especially with somebody like you who I typed twice and it's extremely cut and dry. I mean, you are an INTJ. No sane typologist who knows anything about functions and type would think you are anything but. It's like cut and dry. I actually don't agree with that Habili Okulin because you say possibly the hate is even stronger for demanded 7th than demanded 4th. No, because people are so blind about their 7th that they don't even realize it's impacting them without them being conscious of it. It's not a conscious function. So I was very, upset by watching that movie, but it was nevertheless, it was not something that I understood what it was upsetting me about it. I didn't get that. Whereas I know when I want to avoid SI shit, what I want to avoid. So I think it's much more likely you're gonna express meow towards your 4th slot than your 7th. I would also say it seems to me that 3rd slot and let's talk about 3rd slot and 8th slot. In my opinion, a lot of times 8th slot can be better than 3rd slot. So one of the objections this INFJ had to my typing of her was that her TI wasn't good enough, that she thought she was an INFP as a consequence. 8th slot, and it depending to an outsider's perspective, to another person's perspective, you are very effective with your 8th slot. So TE DOMs, ESTJs, ENTJs, they are effective with their FE, which means to say when they need FE to accomplish some outcome, they bust it out and it works fine. So, like, it's true that this lady had on the poorer side, I guess, the TI tests, was slower than maybe the average for INFJs. I mean, she did equivalent to how Rachel did on the TI test. And a lot of people say, well, that proves she's not an INFJ. Well, INFJs don't necessarily have great TI. 3rd slot TI is not necessarily great. And remember also that 3rd and 4th slot functions are the two functions that you actually develop and improve in over the course of your life. It's not true that you do that with any other functions. It's particularly true with 3rd. What I've realized is my SI is really not much better than it ever was, frankly. It's a little better.
That makes me feel better.
But, it's the only function that you really genuinely seem to have control over willfully improving in is your 3rd slot function.
You're my 3rd slot function.
Thanks, darling.
You're welcome. I wonder if the frog on your shirt will be see-through. That's funny.
That's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
I like that. So this picture show thing still isn't working properly. Not quite sure why. Yeah, the meow like meow. Okay. A lot of pictures there. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm going to, since I've got so many, reduce this to 4 seconds. Okay. Now we should have some real exciting background action. Background changing action here, hopefully.
I think so. Do you feel like your dad showing slideshows of...
Okay. What's that? Yeah, showing slideshows of my vacation.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, you're not explaining them.
Right, I'm not talking about the pictures. Okay, let's see here. If you want to continue to engage in your cyclical toxic behavior lawnmower, by all means go for it. What? He's not toxic. Come on. Really?
Who said that?
Curious Kyra is saying lawnmower's toxic. Lawnmower is a little fussy maybe occasionally, but I would hardly call him toxic. I don't know, my FE fourth is much better than it used to be, but it's a function you get a lot of feedback on. Yeah, true. I mean, the thing is, I guess it's I'm not being exactly objective when I say my SI is not better than it used to be. My SI definitely is better than it used to be. I guess what I'm really saying is it's still not good as I'd like it to be, or it's still not good compared to people who have SI higher in the stack, you know?
I find that when I talk about SE, people are always like, "Oh, that's good." I like that why it's just like a floating.
Thanks, Winston's mom. I appreciate you commenting on that video a great deal.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to make this not random so that maybe we'll see them all in order. Okay. So, let's see here. In what way would TI be your relief? Well, if TI is your relief, then you find it, I guess, a relief to rely on deliberation action circumstances. I'm not exactly sure how TI relief would play out. I guess you find it a relief, for example, when, let's say you're out with your TI Dom friend and there's somebody who's being kind of snotty and your kill them with kindness approach doesn't work, and the TI friend steps up and goes, all right, look, this is what you said and this is where this conflict is and you're in big trouble if you... And you're like, phew. I guess that would be it. Sometimes you refer to relief from first provided by fourth, but I sense more relief from second and third, as if first doesn't need relief, but fourth pulls out from second and third tiredness. Well, what I'm saying is, first and fourth, they can't operate concurrently, but they normally operate in terms of one serving the other. The fourth serves the first, okay? But if you are engaged in your relief function, it switches around and your fourth serves your first serves your fourth. So in other words, if I'm taking a bath and or lying down for sleep, if I'm going down to sleep and I want to fall asleep, I have little pretend stories I have in my head that I tell. That's any serving my SI. And basically it's a relief function when it's the frame and you need it to be the frame. So when my dog died, I was accustomed to not keeping track of my existing resources. Obviously my FI meant that how much I valued things that I already had was of very low interest to me, or priority to me. But most importantly, sort of keeping a comfortable nest and taking care of myself and everything wasn't particularly important until my dog died, at which point I spent a solid week cleaning and making my nest comfortable and stuff, because I needed relief from something that had nothing to do with either my first, second, or third function. I needed relief from the horrible FI I was experiencing. The thing to note about that is, it's still a relief function that links to your dominant and stuff, because when you're experiencing trauma, you're assuming your default way didn't work. That's why you experience trauma. So when your default way doesn't work with cognitive functions, you automatically try or inverting it if it's a significant enough trauma, and go, well, let's make the fourth thought function the frame, and the first thought serve that. Regardless, it's where you go for relief, because it's what you operate assuming you're neglecting. You know you're neglecting it. So when you stop neglecting it, it's a relief. So I want to answer Anonymous Zero's question here that I've been trying to get to but haven't quite gotten to yet. There's a lot of good stuff in the chat today. That's nice. Mm-hmm. If I don't quite get to yours, I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff to get through. Where is Anonymous Zero's question? What if someone's reasoning is completely TI, but they fail on TI tests such as my mother? Okay, well, so, I mean, you'd have to establish how it was you came to the conclusion that somebody's reasoning was completely TI without them passing the test. Like, you know, that in order to answer that question, I'd have to know what you mean by their reasoning is TI. Okay. When I'm acting random, I'm doing it as a joke, and if you can't see that lawnmower, then I'm lost for what to do. We get that you joke around a lot, Curious Kyra, but, you know, sometimes it's unclear. It's unclear because you take a very dry approach towards things that may not inherently seem absurd. Let's see here. Ali Malik, I did not see your comment. Is it on HostDark's page? One with all the replies? We'll go looking into this live stream. Lawnmower. I'm a human and I've been told I am complex. I have many faces. Lawnmower, not just one. Many different faces. That's why it's always hard to recognize her. You know? It's almost impossible to recognize her. She could look like a dude. She could look like Merv Griffin. She could look like, you know, Kyra. She could look like anybody. She's got a lot of different faces.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Greetings, Sean Ryan Barron. Can mow a lawnmower, then maybe you should consider the impact of your words before flippantly stating them to someone. Kyra, did you bring with you a wasp's nest today, and you're enticing people to stick their hand into it, or what? TI relief, maybe finish something, like do something you've been thinking about doing to completion. That's SE relief. That's SE relief you're talking about. I'm more sensitive than most, so I react quite strongly to others' words, especially if they're somewhat negative. I see. Once I saw us referred to as a dump truck backing up and dumping info everywhere. Who's us? Talking to famous people? You are dangerous. We've conversed plenty positively and you over-exaggerate. Listen, lawnmower, exaggerate means overstate. Over-exaggerate's redundant.
Uh-oh, this is coming from a debate coach.
My English teacher. This is my English teacher self right now, I guess.
Sorry. I don't know everything.
Yeah, I'm tempted to be like, yeah, you know, be careful with the toxicity accusations, maybe. It's a little those tend to be taken seriously, regardless of how intended.
Yeah, it's strong word, they say.
Strong words. When something bad happened to me, I just told my friend it's okay while crying and just kept playing the video game we were on. It seems like SE to me. Well, I mean, just because you didn't get relief for the thing that bad happened to you right then doesn't mean you didn't eventually get it or seek it in some other way. I mean, if it probably wasn't that bad, I guess. Maybe the FI was the relief. You're crying. I don't know. Yeah, but SE relief would be doing shit, I guess. Joyce Banks, she's an INFJ who runs a new channel and often has 4 or 5 people interview. She do discussion with INTJs and ENFPs. She's not 14 though, Skyger. She's a mature INFJ. I've typed her as INFJ. She asked me to take down the video because I don't remember why. She had some reasoning to, so I took it down. When I ask my dad any questions, he asks, "What was the answer?" Is this showing any polar? It's suggestive of it, I would say. Suggestive indeed. TI equals deduction in layman's terms. It equals conditionality in layman's terms. Okay, well, I'm really lost on this relief concept. Well, that's the thing. Remember that it's a descriptive concept. It's not implicit in any way mechanically to the functions. The fact that you turn to your fourth for relief, quote unquote, just means that it's implicit to the definition of what it means for have a dominant or a fourth function, right? That if you have a dominant function of extroverted intuition, like I said, definitionally, I'm spending a lot more time ideating and working on new stuff than I am organizing or archiving my old stuff. So sort of implicitly, it's going to function mechanically, I guess, like a relief when you attend to SI finally, if you're in any DOM. Now, the problem with calling something a relief function, of course, is that everybody assumes that this is a good way to argue against their type. Well, I don't feel relief. That's not what it means, You might feel relief, or you might seek relief, or regardless, it's relieving in the sense that it's changing a default status quo. So there's nothing to understand beyond that. If you're trying to understand cognitive functions in terms of how you feel or what you experience, you can't trust your descriptions of how you feel or what you experience very much, probably. If you are an SI above NI, you can't trust what you know. If you are FI against TI, above TI, you can't trust what you think. So the only people who can possibly correctly self-assess are people who have TI above FI and NI above SI. So for me, that's fifth is above fourth in terms of effectiveness or comfort or power or whatever you want to call it, There aren't very many people who can self-assess correctly. They will either be... People have a very difficult time using arguments when they're not advocating either an affirmation or a negation. People don't get the idea of gathering arguments, collecting arguments, and not attaching to any of them, and then evaluating them for what kind of arguments they are, the strength they have, and seeing which can be seen as washed out without interfering with the logic of the whole thing, and which can't be seen as a wash without interfering with the logic of the whole thing. And then you can determine definitively as much as possible X or Y. At that point, you toss aside the false positives because you've already checked to make sure they're non-determinate. If they are determinate and you have contradictory determinants, well, then that's when you start talking about falsifying the system. And there's nothing at risk of that here. We're just talking about people who are after the typing clinging to these false positive indicators that may or may not be good. That may or may not be well used to indicate anything. They may in fact be misleading more often than not. These descriptive correlates. So it's complicated. Who cares anyway? I'm done wasting time here. Well, I'm curious, Kyra. You cared because you came in and were waving around a club. So obviously you cared. Otherwise you wouldn't have behaved accordingly. This is what happens when FI takes hold of one. Then you have to step back and say, how I feel right now is not relevant to the truth. It's a growth moment. Like, okay, I'm going to engage in the proper amount of objective self-criticism. I'm going to relegate my FI where it belongs in this context, which is at the bottom of the stack, because we are evaluating the truth of statements. Any examples of paying attention that are difficult to differentiate whether it's stemming from SE or TE? I mean, SE and TE link together a lot, just as SE and FE do. So, the difference is this. SE things are things that you have decided on beforehand and can successfully execute without interfacing. So, like, if I tell you to dig a hole in the ground that's 6 feet deep, you already know how to dig a hole, but the pushing down part and stuff, that's something you can do better or worse. Now, that's kind of a gray area on TESE. In my opinion, things that are more or less repetitious, that don't involve any problem solving, like digging a hole, then doing the digging well is a component of SESI. That you're attending to how your muscles feel and so forth when you shovel this way or that way, and also to how tired you're getting, stuff like that, to try to shovel in ways that are sustainable over time and that get the most dirt out. Now, if you're just focused on getting the most dirt out as you can, like just put that handle on and get all this dirt out, and go super hardcore fast, that's definitely SE, right? But and there's definitely not TE there. You're just trying to get the thing done. If you are determined to dig a hole that has that is a perfect triangle shape, then you're going to have to do a lot more how-toing, right, than if you just dig a random hole. With FE, it's kind of the same thing. If you are, let's say you're at a show, and at the end of the show you were really happy with it, so you get up and applaud a lot. Well, that's mostly SE. That's not really FE. Granted, you're trying to convey that to the other person, I perceive you positively, which is an expression of FE data. But whether or not you're utilizing FE as an intentional manner is another question entirely. So it's like, if you are not attending to the fact that the person on the stage is being impacted by the applause, if you're just focused on how you want the applause to make them play another song, let's say, and you want them to stay on and play an encore, but so that's why you're applauding, then you're not really focused on the FE. That's a TE situation in terms of its frame of reference. You have a specific goal and you're trying to solve it with an FE move, kind of, right? But genuine FE would be much more would be attentive to whether or not this applause is actually going to influence them to that outcome, and in fact might maybe go talk to the guy after the show and say something and get a feel for where he is about his own work, and then accordingly adjust what you're going to say. That's FE, because FE is a interface function. It is not a function where you go, I know what I'm going to do, and then you go and do it. That's deliberation action. Eric, please don't look at the chat. Save yourself. It looks like this has gotten crazy over here. I don't know what's going on. Everyone's losing here. What's going on in the chat? Who's upset about what and why? Okay, everybody, remember.
What's up with the name calling?
Okay, look. Everybody, just take it easy. So what? Kyra came in. It's like maybe she woke up in a bad mood or something. All right, cut her some slack. Everyone jump on her because you've got adequate justification to do so. Remember, you don't want other people to always exploit their adequate justification to jump on you either. In general, I think one of the worst problems in the world is how sometimes people will be looking for other people to do something wrong so they can get on them about it. And that's a very short distance between creating something they did that was wrong in order to yell at them, you know? My chat is crazy because 33 people are viewing. That's more than I usually see here. Numbers have been rising lately a little bit, pleasantly, agreeably. Happy for me, you know, happy for Rachel and happy for the channel and everything.
Yeah, me too. It's nice. It's nice seeing the payoff. And also that, like, YouTube's on the right side of things. Because for a while,
It seemed like
it
I
was
was getting
tough.
kind of suppressed.
Yeah.
I do have this, what I call quick reference guide or something like that. What do I call it? Typology quick reference guide. If you don't have a copy of this, let me get you a copy of this right now. I'll share it with you. This goes over a lot of those things. I could, I guess, you know, make it my background or something. We could look at it. Or I could do, could I do that? I could add a thing, I guess. Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to do this. Window capture. Create new window capture. That's the one. That's the window I want, all right. Yep. That's the one. Now, what we're going to do so it doesn't take up all of the space, we're going to go like that. Okay, sure. It's a little small to see. Maybe I'll have to give it a little bit more space. Okay, there. Well, now it's in front of my face. How about, there we go. Now we are cooking with gasoline. The proverbial gasoline. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's sexy. You want to talk sexual sexiness. That's what I'm talking about. So you see here, you've got typing session bullet points in the Typology Quick Reference Guide. You've got function mechanic bullet points that tells you native, non-native, blah, blah, blah. You've got fields of attention, kinds of function, knowledge, deliberation, interface, action. Did I share this yet? I guess I didn't. Well, okay. So TI reasoning would be looking at a situation objectively and trying to find out the actual truth of what's going on. Okay, so TI reasoning does include being a disinterested party. That's true. But the thing is, if you want to understand, if you want to say that somebody's using TI reasoning, but they do poorly on the TI test, then what that might mean would be something like, well, I mean, you can tell something by how they correct you, right? So, and if you wanted to make the argument that somebody used TI reasoning but didn't but didn't in a way that didn't link to the deductive reasoning test, you might say that they correct you in a certain way, you know, like if they correct you by, okay, I don't need to have this thing here anymore, I guess, but I'll just put this up, like, I don't know, or I'll put like this. There. Okay. Nice. There. So, now, bring this thing up. Here we go. So, anyway, thanks, Lubomir Katz. You're the best. That's
Thank you.
pound sterlings. Those are my favorite currencies.
Ooh.
Okay. So, okay, Cloud. Everybody wants to lecture everybody with their meow meow. Here's what's wrong with you. Meow. Is that all they take? 30%? I think they take more like 50, but okay. Maybe it is like 30. Okay, so what I wanted to say was, if they were always correcting you by saying, but you said meh, 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 so what do you mean by meh, 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 meh? If they're always asking you to define things and always correcting you for inconsistencies of what you said in the past and so forth, then that might be a good way to establish that somebody's using TI reasoning without referring to a test result. That's what you're really looking for. You're looking to see, okay, can we establish that there's TI reasoning that makes somebody TI, but, and probably in the first 2 slots or something, but that nevertheless test poorly on the tests. Well, no, that's not really possible. So, how do we tell backslot TI that does well on TI tests apart from front slot TI that underperforms? I mean, I don't think that front slot's underperforming unless it's in, people who are in the first or second slot in the front slot, they're easy to tell. It's dramatically faster, stronger, and more intuitive, more natural than back slot, even 5th or 6th. Fifth can be quick, can be tricky. And the answer is, of course, the TI test is ultimately a TI polar test. It is useful in distinguishing between slots, but it's ultimately a TI polar test. And so we have to acknowledge the fact and accept the fact that there are holistic truths here, which is to say, your type is ultimately not going to be reducible in a way that is independently verifiable with something else. So what Anonymous Zero was trying to do is say, well, let's check an independent verification of this test to make sure it's consistent with TI. What if this other TI test disagrees with it? Well, the skills test then is the correct one. Until we can establish, in fact, that TI doesn't correlate with that, which there's been no indication whatsoever that that's the case. Everything I understand about cognitive function orders and types has been consistent with my results that I've gotten in typing people. You might again say that, well, I'm just making their type consistent with my understanding of it or something, but my understanding of it actually accounts for everything logically and reasonably. Other understandings then would need to be preferable or negate some point that I'm making as to why it ought to be that way, which they don't, so I'm right. And that's the thing. It's not so much that the back slot overperforms, front slot underperforms. It's more specific than that. Polar 7th will simply not even get the concept, basically. There are differing degrees of strength and weakness in some slots, and it's more uniform in others. 7th is pretty uniform. It's the most uniform, which is why it's a TI polar test. So we have to use an assortment of different pieces of data to make a determination about somebody's type. But you have to also think about it in this term, in terms of the illocutionary type. What's going to make a person feel satisfied that they've been typed correctly? Well, that depends on their type as well. So, an INFJ is going to feel as though they've been typed correctly when their holistic understanding of the type is consistent with their holistic understanding of themselves. For an SI Dom, whether or not they're going to feel satisfied by a given type assignment is going to be determined entirely upon how they experience themselves. Their own experiential knowledge will always take precedent over the truth when they conflict. If it's an FI Dom, they probably have to spend some time feeling how they feel about being that type before they can really settle into it. If it's an action type, SE or any Dom, well, it really depends on the deliberation function. If it's an ENFP, they're likely to feel their way around to accepting their type. If it's an ESFP, they're likely to ultimately conclude that their type is something that they decide, and that it almost as though by believing themselves a type, they will manifest the attributes that a type is known for or something. ESTP, probably going to be pretty reasonable and quick to accept the type. ISTP, generally the same thing. I mean, you saw I typed an ISTP the other day. He's one guy who didn't send me an email after the fact that, the any polar test was pretty definitive with him too, which was nice. It's like when you get any polar, it's pretty definitive. It really is. You'll see an NI third slot person, and you ask them a question like the invention question, and they come up with one name for it. And then even if they can't come up with a second one, it's like a derivative of the first. So, yeah. Let's see what else we got going on here in the old chatteroo. Am I the only one who's actually listening to Eric at this point? That's fine. People don't have to listen to me. Is truth discovered or created, and why? In my opinion, it's both. When creating a new truth, you are using pieces of pre-existing truths that you would have to have discovered to use in creating the one that is new. That's a very any perspective on truth in general. Sometimes it's that case. It depends what it is you're talking about creating, so there's no disputing I didn't create the fact that humans attend on 4 fields. That simply is the case. My description of it, my articulation of that fact may be novel, but it doesn't mean that the thing I'm articulating didn't exist long before me, What am I scrolling up to see? What if someone tests positive anypolar and antipolar? Well, that would falsify the system. If they actually tested both anypolar and antipolar, then that would falsify the system, because unless they're as long as they're a normal human being. I mean, presumably, if you get somebody with severe mental disability, you get them to test polar everything. I don't know, but how can I distinguish between anypolar and linguistic barriers in the tests? So, actually, I don't think there's too much to worry about there, because what I find is that even people who speak kind of broken English, any is a relationship with language. It's not just it doesn't rely that much on knowledge of language. So, like, if you're any Dom and you speak broken English, and I ask you a question about synonyms for this, you'll make some shit up, or it's again, it has a lot to do with how a person approaches or reacts to a given kind of question than it does with any particular thing I can point to and say, well, this is the meow. Remember, humans are open systems. Anytime you say, if you meow, then the person will meow, they're going to try to work around that. They're going to know you say that you can predict that about them, and they're going to open system it, which is to say, no longer are they susceptible to that trick, right? That's what makes the skills test so important. They can know about it going in, and they still can't game it. There's nothing else like that in typology. It's the most important thing in typology. It's the only thing that separates typology from astrology, is the fact that it's non-arbitrary. So when I say that that there are 4 fields, it is not possible that you could come up with a system that had 8 fields. It would be just as good. No. It's not. It doesn't work that way because reality is what it is. That's what we're working off of. The fact that it's entirely abstract means you have to be a meta-analyst, really, probably, to do the right kind of thinking about it. If you're not doing meta-analysis with it, then you're not understanding that this is fundamentally a map of something real. So it's not attempting to establish correlations like astrology. It says, well, if you were born here, then it correlates with this behavior, that behavior, the other thing. It's actually pointing out the implicit architectural qualities of human consciousness. It's much bigger than some personality thing. I mean, we have defined the scope and extent of human consciousness and the necessary constraints upon it. If you know an interface, then necessarily of deprioritized status are action and deliberation. These things are logically necessary. They're as logically necessary as the fact that if you fill up this jug with orange juice, you can't also fill it up with water at the same time. These kind of necessities are why it's important that we understand this for what it is, not an arbitrary taxonomy of correlations that could be reinvented and still do the same thing as well. There was an ENFP I was trying to affirm type of. She didn't understand the genealogy question, but she answered the rest correctly. Okay, well, you say she didn't understand the genealogy question, but she answered the rest correctly. What does that mean? That you gave her a bunch of other TI questions, she got them all right? I'd have to see how she got them right, what kind of questions they were, and like how quickly she got them right, etc. But it is very possible if there's one area where language is a problem, it's in the genealogy test, because most people who are non-native speakers of English don't learn familial relations beyond mom, dad, and brother and sister, So that is a problem, and that may be potentially a problem. But if she, in fact, answered genuine TI questions successfully and understood them and everything, then she's not an ENFP. If, in fact, she had trouble getting to the concept at first, but then once you got it clear to what the concept was, that you're doing black and white thinking here, then she was able to do quite well on it, that's 8th slot. That's 8th slot at TI. Maybe INFP. Maybe ISFP. Probably INFP. They tend to have stronger 8th slot than ISFPs do. Today's stream is actually really informative. Today's chat is ass. Well, there's an inversely proportional relationship between the host and the chat. The better the host, the worse the chat, and vice versa. The chat is ass, the ass is chat, and nobody has too much of that. Okay, so let's talk, guys. Let's put aside the hard feelings. Let's put aside the negativity, the meanness, the crying, the harsh words, and let's just really understand what it is we're feeling. Because I think, hey, listen, Cloud, I want you to know something. You are loved just as you are. Okay? You don't have to put on airs. You don't have to aspire to big things. We love you just the way you are. Karma's pimp. You are the pimpinest of all of Karma's pimp. Ali Malik. Have I ever told you what a special fellow you are? Genuinely, truly important and special. You too are loved. Chris Chapin. I want you to know that you don't have to worry about being disappointed. Because this kind of pat on your shoulder, let me tell you what kind of pat it is. It's a reassuring pat. I'm reassuring you that you too are special, important, and loved. Okay? Outer self, hungry is not an emotion. Okay? Hungry creates emotions. Hungry creates the emotion of fussy. Hungry leads to fussy. Fussy leads to wrong. Wrong leads to disaster. So that's why you have to avoid getting hungry.
Is the chat still going?
Yeah, oh yeah. I just, they were saying that the chat was ass. So I was trying to repair the chat's low morale by telling them all how special they are.
You guys are very special. Don't you know you're famous people? We're talking with famous people. Isn't talking with
Rachel,
Bubs
I think
and
your
Scrubs.
lovely face is going to help the chat to be nicer, okay? So
Okay.
I want you guys to be inspired by Rachel's face towards niceness while I smoke this cigarette over here for a second.
Hi, Running Fox. Oh, his tenders are dampened.
Look where my dad got.
Hey, Sandy. I know. That's so nice of
Put
him.
these in the fridge. Budweiser.
Yeah,
Zeros.
can we? Because I actually could feel like having
I
one
get
like
one,
that.
too.
Yeah.
You want to split a warm one while we're waiting for
Yeah.
it to get cold? Okay.
Oh my gosh, I love the way we live. I do. Hey, lawnmower.
Tastes like Budweiser.
Cheers.
Cheers indeed.
What up, utter self? I've
Sometimes
missed you
Budweiser
guys.
tastes good, right?
It really does.
Yeah.
I gotta thank your dad.
Yeah. So we also got some pistachio nuts.
Oh, how nice.
Also on sale. That was 59 cents, that kind of
That's great. He gets really good buys.
He finds the deals.
What up, Rachel McDermott? Nice to meet ya. Nice to have another Rachel in the chat.
I'm just going to open my own.
Okay.
This is not bad. This isn't that
It's
warm.
no, it's really not.
Room temperature, coolish.
We could pretend we were in England. Oh my gosh, Winston's mom, I actually know that song that you're talking about, Fleet Foxes. White Winter Hymnal. That's cool. I'm good. Welcome, Rachel McDermott. It's we got a great community here. Hope you have a good time. I'm really good. I've just been working with Eric, really. We've been keeping busy creatively. I'm trying to think. Eric's dad came home last night from Palm Desert because he said it was too hot. We were going to go there for his birthday, which is in a couple days.
Week,
Yeah. But we're not going to go because it's too hot. Fleet Foxes they are a good band. Hey, Clap. Eric is here.
I'm right here. Yeah. Cloud, I'll be back in a second.
Don't worry, Cloud. Why? You have something to say?
He just wants to be.
He said I need my own for chit chat. Who knows? Maybe, I don't think I have enough followers to go live. I don't know. I don't know, guys, but maybe that'll happen one day.
It's a challenge for knowers. They're not action types, They require a fair amount of interface with the chat to generate stuff. I can sit there for 10 minutes with nobody in the chat just making up random shit to entertain myself. That's hard for non-action types to do, I think.
Yeah, I think he's right because an example of that is with Frank James. When he first started live streaming, it would be about like a topic he liked. Like one time it was his skills playing Monopoly. The other time it was like he was showing pictures on his like favorite paintings. Like he felt that there was need. But I will say that even though they were typically like seen as boring to like most people who live stream, it was actually like totally different than today because you could actually speak with him and it wouldn't be like this like cluster.
You'd get noticed.
Yeah. Yeah, he would
Now you gotta get lucky to get noticed by him at all.
I mean, yeah. It's very hard for him to keep up. I actually do feel, and he's still, even if you look at his live streams, sometimes struggles on what kind of topic to speak about. But so I'll keep on the subject of Frank James, but diverge a little bit. I took one of his rainbow quiz, what color are you? Personality test, and I got lavender. He got orange, which he was very happy with.
I got poop brown.
Aw, that makes a lot of sense, baby.
Poop brown.
Do you want to hear something?
Sure.
So I opened up the door to take a shower last night, and it smelled like farts and poops.
Oh my god.
Oh.
I had quite a night in the middle of the night last night.
Did
I had
you?
big stomach problems. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had to get up and go all run inside and go poop.
Oh, I'm glad you got it out.
Purple is your favorite color? Well, you know what that makes you? A 5-year-old. That's what that makes you.
Yeah.
Delilah is also a purple person, my daughter Delilah, who is 21 years old. Rachel read a report on our relationship that said that that she's a domineering bitch and I'm going to cheat on her.
Yeah. Yep. That's what the report said. It said that I wouldn't be able, that he would get his sexual needs other places, and that I was this tyrant basically.
You streamed an egg, huh? Was the egg particularly entertaining egg? What color am I? What color are we talking about? What color? What are we talking?
Okay,
your color is olive, Oliver. Obviously, you're olive.
Yeah, you're Olive, Oliver.
You're the same color as Rachel's
we haven't used the
outfit.
cards in a little bit. Do you mind?
I don't mind.
I'd like my deck to breathe a little bit.
Sure. One thing I want. Yes, fine, Fox 32. You are mauve. Ollie, you're pinkish gray, the color of a scrotum. Congratulations.
I like your style better. It's so funny because, like, when he found out how he was orange, like, he was, like, so happy. He was like, oh my god, I got orange. I'm an excitable, like, happy person.
You don't want to be pinkish gray, Ollie? You don't want to be pinkish gray? Okay, you don't have to be pinkish gray. You can be green, but the problem with that is if you're in front of a green screen, you're going to disappear, so you're going to have to use a blue screen. So you are together with your latest date, Cloud? Oh, he's got his latest woman. And what I want to do here...
The Switch is fun. Feel no shame indulging in that new video console you have. Enjoy it, because it is a good investment.
Alright, before we do these cards, Rachel, I want to play for everybody the new song that we made.
Okay.
The new video.
Sure.
If Jesus was people but absent of sin, he must then have struggled with regular men. and women, of course, when they too were present. Disciples all warily eyeing the lesson. People aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. If people were Jesus, they'd know what they think, and everyone's work would be true. And feelings once spoken would sit where they sink, and we'd all know just what to do. People aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. The one you thought you knew, acts like you never have met. The life you made for two has faded into regret. No one unshaken, we all have been shook, but being forsaken don't mean you're forsook. Though in the past you've been hung out to dry, we'll find them at last, we just have to try. People aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. Maybe naivete is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost.
Okay, so I think that came out really good. It's got 7 thumbs up and 27 views. That's great.
That is great. Aww.
Thanks, Kyra. Thanks, Casponot. And thanks, Sandy,
Thank you.
for your wonderful comments.
Yes. They are much appreciated.
There. Okay, so Rachel's got the cards out. If you would like a card,
Thanks,
thanks
Udderself.
Grooming Zone for liking it.
And Grooming Zone.
Maybe I've found the secret to Grooming Zone's musical taste. Who knows?
Okay, let's pull a card for him. Or her.
Alright, you pull a card for whomever.
Grooming Zone, you're getting a
While
card.
I pull this bowl.
Ooh. Ooh, you got this one. Imagine, dream, 7 of Cups. So cool.
What that means, Grooming Zone, is that you're too many good things to choose from. You're like, which one should I choose?
There's a lot of cups.
We call it choose confused.
Spend time daydreaming about 7 cups.
Bong. Ian to be his best friend. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
True dat. True dat. Yes, please, but most importantly, Winston's mom, if you are going to go to see that song, please let the video play all the way through and like it, ideally. But YouTube cares more about whether you let the video play all the way through. If you just go there and like it and leave right away, you're actually doing me harm.
Okay, Raphael, next card is for your future relationship.
luck. His future
Luck.
relationship luck.
Okay. Future relationship luck. This one.
It's this one. Ooh. The tarot has no wisdom for you.
Oh, you're gonna journey into the unknown. Maybe gotta go into uncharted territories to get your 8 of Cups.
So what this tells you is that you just gotta be accepting of the fact that you don't know. You don't know who you're gonna bone, how much boning you're gonna do.
You don't know how you're gonna do it.
You don't even know if you're gonna take Rick Benson's Bone Symposium.
No, you may even turn away from it.
Okay, Sean Ryan Barron also wants to know his future relationship.
Okay.
Let's find
All
out.
right, Sean Ryan Barron. Woo! 2 popped out for you.
Okay. 2 of them. Ooh, look at this.
Sean Ryan Barron.
You got the soulmate card, but you also got the chariot evolution card. Let me tell you what this tells me, okay? It tells me you've got a karmic relationship coming and then your soulmate relationship. So hurry up and get your karmic relationship out of the way. That's this one. You're going to learn something in this relationship. You're going to be like, okay, listen, Jerry, you're just no good for me, okay? Yeah, it was fun at first, but now I realize I need a real grown-up, okay? And then finally, oh yeah, soulmate time. Soulmate time. It's like the ideal human. Yeah, just one more
Still
though. Just
another
one
relationship.
more. Just one more. Just make it a quick one. Okay? Just make it a quick one and then alright, so Chris Chapman wants to know what the
So does Jimmy.
to soothe his innermost conflict.
Soothe his
What does he need to do to soothe his innermost conflict? Everyone wants to know this about
Okay.
Chris Chapman right now.
And I want to tell Cloud, Jesus is my homeboy.
And then Jimmy Spirit will get your cards next.
Yeah. Okay, this one. 4.
This is for your innermost conflict, Chris Chapman. It says, ooh, okay. What's going to soothe your innermost conflict? Your innermost woman. That's
Yup.
what- Your inner woman will soothe your inner conflict.
Time for some SI love stuff. Candles. Maybe some baths with bubbles. You know.
Okay, Jimmy Spear wants a card for his... Okay, so let's see. First, let's get a card for processing the divorce. Then we'll get a card for current romantic possibilities. And then lastly, for overall romantic outcome. So this is for your divorce. Pretty conventional, pretty normal. Pretty normal divorce. You just sort of see yourself as going through the motions of doing the paperwork and stuff. Not that emotional for you, okay? Now, second, what about your current romantic considerations? What's the field look like for you right now? Oh, well, you're thinking. You're saying, look, I'm not going to let my emotions get me too caught up in this whole thing. I'm going to think. Is this chick good chick? Not so good? I'm going to think about it. I'm going to be pragmatic here. If, you know, it's not enough that she's got big tits, she also needs to have a boat.
That's a good way of putting it.
Uh-oh. Overall luck? 7 of rods, struggle and defense, effort. But look, struggle, defense, effort, you know, it ends eventually. This means that in the immediately foreseeable future, I'm not really seeing a lot of like grand slams, but you know, this is temporary. Don't you worry. Eventually you'll find that the struggle is over.
Yeah.
And Marilyn Monroe herself comes back from the dead to date you.
This, I think, also can translate as standing your ground, too. So it's like, if you stand your ground, you're gonna come out the other end in achievement.
Okay, so we want, Lubomir Katz wants a card to determine about his level of effort. So what I say is, should Lubomir Katz be well served by trying harder or by trying less hard? Well, we'll see what the relationship with him and effort is expressed as in the tarot. It's this one. Alright, so I would say that, remember, you're a thinker. That means you're a deliberator. Don't try to do too much. Just make sure the things you do have impact. That's being pragmatic. Okay. Anybody else
Anyone
wants a card? Who was the one who said they were an ENTP after years thinking they were an INTP?
The name of the tarot deck is the Rock and Roll Tarot Deck by Vicky Verily. I got it off of Amazon.
Who completes who compiles with who complies with a tyrannical god? Who? I want to know what that's relating to.
You're welcome, Jimmy. Okay. Could we do a read for my
Sure.
conscious functions?
Sure. All right, so we're going to do Rachel's front stack. Okay? This is for today. In other words, how well is today going to correlate with her natural attentional fashion, manner, or another way of looking at it is what direction will her first slot work for her? Let me see here. What's this one on the top, I think? You're having a reunion with your NI today.
Aw, it's true.
Your NI is like an old friend.
Yeah, I'm going to old websites, and I asked you about Delilah's birth chart, too. That's
You're
going
settling
back.
into some comfortable self.
Yeah.
All right, now let's look at the FE.
And then we can do one for Flying Fox after me.
Sure.
He or she was asking about their SE. Okay.
Well, what rules would you consider tyrannical? Like, in what way did complying with those rules create injustice of some sort? What's this one for? Oh yeah, your tool function. Emperor virtuoso. In other words, you're very likable today. You're schmoozing, like everyone's boozing, and the liquor they're drinking is oozing from your honeyed tongue.
Happy Saturday, everyone.
Now, how about your third self-function? How about that TI?
Yeah, let's see him. Let's see it. You can choose this one.
Okay. TI's getting better. Increased new money, new gig. You're thinking about stuff. You're feeling sharp. You're feeling like TI is an opportunity to gain outcomes that are positive.
Yeah, especially with money, I definitely feel that for sure.
And then last, we're going to have the fourth thought function, SE. That's the extroverted, that's the sensing, that's the extroverted sensing. Let's find out. Ooh, arrival success. You're doing stuff today, baby.
I feel it.
We are doing it. We are doing stuff.
Doing stuff.
We made a video.
Oh, yeah. Doing it. Got that ambition.
Arrival success. Ambition. Yes. These are amazing translucent cards. Okay, so Flying Fox wanted some cards. I believe.
Flying Fox.
Okay, but Sky Gear, I would say, cite an example whereby the compliance was actually compliance in a way that, in other words, to be compliance against one's will, in other words, to represent coercion in some fashion, requires that that one makes choices that one would not independently make. So it's not clear if he's complying or just his behavior is consistent with. Regardless, compliance with what represents... Give me an example of when compliance involved creating injustice. That's the critical question.
Okay. Flying Fox, your SE is harmony and free spirit.
I think that means you just need to go make love. Make love with your free spirit so you are in harmony with your SE. Those cards are telling you to make love.
Yeah.
If there's somebody out there you're thinking, you know what? I think I've been thinking for a while, but maybe making love with this person. Making love to, at, or around this person. Then now's the day. It's their lucky day.
Yeah.
It's love-making day.
Ooh, love-making day. Look at that smile on host Eric's face.
I don't think nobody's tearing nobody down personally. I mean, everyone's just getting a little bit of FI up in there.
Yeah, that was definitely a lot of FI, actually.
A lot of FI.
Which is not common in this, but it is also a part of us. You see how much I understand FI? I really can't get the words out.
The word compliance doesn't imply coercion, but it is the case that it's understood from two different perspectives. So, for example, the United Nations has international courts that rule about whether or not a nation's accordance with international law is an example of compliance or just incidental. So it is the case that Guam has no chemical or biological weapons, but that does not represent compliance with the chemical or biological weapons ban. Instead, it's just incidental. They never had any. We're never going to get any. So they're in accordance with, but not in compliance with. It's a reasonable distinction to make. So compliance doesn't necessarily mean coercion, but it means at least an awareness and a decision to comply, rather than just an incidentally being consistent with. And I'm not convinced that you've established that Jesus was in compliance yet. He may have been in accordance without being in compliance. Coercion is a different question, but the thing is, compliance implies that you're accepting, that you're making the decision in because of a rule that you might otherwise make the other decision. But, the thing is, I think to remember our Christianity in general is that its position is one that states that human will is best manifest when humans attempt to understand and behave in accordance with God's will. So, if you're going to say that attempting to behave in accordance with the will of some external moralist like God is inherently a bad thing, well, then that's fine, but that's not really warranted by anything. Yes, please. Okay. But, look, the thing is, I don't think anybody really argues that Jesus was perfect. I think they argue that he was without sin, which is a little bit different than perfect, right? I mean, I don't think perfect's a meaningful word when describing people.
Yeah. Jesus hung out with the people who were shunned the most.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what rules did he preach exactly? I'm not that familiar with what he said. Like, how many examples are there in the Bible of Jesus of quotes of Jesus saying things about God. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but maybe not that many.
Yeah, did he know he was?
Did Jesus know he was the Son of God? I'm not sure. I think he did by the time he was on the cross, because
Yeah.
he said, "Why have you forsaken me?" But when he knew that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the Bible says. I'm not sure where you'd learn that, or what you'd conclude about that. Lawnmower, do you know the answer to any of these questions?
The person asked.
Sorry, Raining Fox. Everybody being argumentational or what? I know what it's like to find things like, ugh, that's really taxing on my attentional manner. Why would you love your enemy? Well, because look, if you want me to justify it from a experiential way, it's easy enough to justify as follows. If just because I'm at odds with somebody that's a temporary state of affairs. I might think of person X as being my enemy, but after we have some more interactions, our relationship may change, right? So that's one reason why you don't want to, at least, you don't want to destroy or hate or condemn your enemies forever from a practical, personal interest standpoint. But beyond that, you want to say that you love your enemies is to recognize that that they're human beings the same as you are. It's like, if you look at warfare, you would say that one thing we could agree on is that the firebombing of Dresden was not an example of Christ-like behavior, because in that instance it was not strategically significant as a military objective. It was punitive and designed to cause suffering to the German people, because the Germans had been dropping these bombs on London, so, or shooting them over and having them fall on, I guess is more correct. So the thing is, what does it mean to love your enemies? It simply just means that you recognize two wrongs don't make a right, that their experience matters too, that that it's not acceptable to wreak one's wrathful vengeance at the cost of civilians, hundreds of thousands of civilian lives. So it's like we can make a distinction between those sorts of war behaviors that are more justified and those that are less justified. Eric, I bet you were fooled reading this. Read this again out loud. I was reading. I don't understand. I am confused. Is that the same thing as fooled? In my view, he isn't perfect because he preaches an arbitrary set of virtues, which we now come to agree with. Well, I mean, the thing is, I don't think his virtues are arbitrary that he's preaching. For example, no negative rights, like moral claim is arbitrary. Those are all totally logically justified. I mean, granted, you have to, in order to logically justify them, an individual has to agree that they agree to take some stance one way or another on the issue of slavery. But beyond that, everything else is logically justified. In other words, you have to take a stance on ownership of your own body. who owns your body. If an individual can be gotten to agree that they own their body, then all negative rights are logically deducible. If in fact you get somebody who says, no, I do affirm the moral legitimacy of slavery, then that's, you're at a dispass. You're at an impasse. So anyway, Skygear says, my whole point in the earlier response cloud, which I explained to Eric, is that perfect is relative, vague, subjective. I agree, it's relative, vague, subjective. But my point was, I'm not sure that people think that Jesus was perfect, just that he was free from sin, and there might be a difference between those two things. It said you 2 times. Look, Eric. I bet you were fooled. Yeah, okay. Well, I wouldn't call that fooled so much as my normal filter that processes things that are happenstance errors to limit my processing towards the meaning is working functionally well. It's working fine, you know. What do you think decides what gets to stay and what gets out of it? Who do you think decides what gets to stay and what gets out of it? It's different to admire beauty and different to specifically visualize yourself having sex with that person. It's good to have control over lust. You know, I mean, it depends how much enthusiasm you have for lust in the first place. I don't feel it's a huge virtue for me to avoid lustfulness because it doesn't consume very much of my attention, even if I were to indulge in it in full. It's something that occurs in and around the time period when I end up having sexual intercourse, you know. After I don't have sexual intercourse for a while, I start feeling more lustful and, you know, noticing like Rachel's boobs or something more, and then pretty soon I'll have sexual intercourse and I'll go back to not thinking about sex anymore. So if you're like me, it's not really much of a virtue to be to have control over lust, because I don't really need to have any control over it. It all seems quite boring to me. You know, there are moments when you're inflamed with sexual energy when it doesn't seem boring, but in the abstract, when I reflect on it, like, it's like, well, the amount of attention people give to sex versus the amount of complexity involved in it, which is, it's not a complicated act, right? It's just, it's like, there are all these things you can do. Oh, it's all just, what? Just, it's like, it's so strange, and the whole thing, sex is strange. It gets this weird kind of like hype in our culture that I don't know why. You know, there's this sort of fundamental assumption that that sex is a thing like money, that you could imagine. You know, like, well, in my fantasy world, I'd have a mansion and a yacht, and that sex is something like that. But sex is not like that at all. Sex is much more like going poo, which is to say, you do it periodically. You have to. It can be better or worse depending on how it goes. But it's not something to, you know, build a whole life around, for God's sakes. It's just going number 3, you know. But I mean, the difference between going number 3 and sex is that sex is a critical part of sustaining a healthy and intimate romantic relationship. So, you know, like relationships, one way that a relationship can go bad is people just stop having sex completely. If that happens, then there's not the natural relief that men and women around each other, or men and men if you're gay or whatever, but men and women need around each other. If they, like, I spent a lot of time in close proximity with Rachel. If we just sort of stopped having sex, like, I'd be like, hey, let's have sex. She'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, yeah, okay. And then maybe, like, I can't imagine me just ever just stop wanting it completely, because it's a involuntary thing where every couple days, few days, I don't know, I feel the need to. There's this beautiful woman next to me all the time, and every once in a while I'm obviously gonna feel the need to. I feel the sense of like, yeah, like you're just there all the time looking like that, and God. So like the first sense that you're feeling lustful is I'm somehow frustrated with Rachel for being all curvy and stuff, You're like, oh, I'm horny. Oh, that's right. I remember that. I remember now what that is. Jesus high five strangers.
I think it's nice though that we have this like natural attraction to each other.
Yes, that's important. I mean, that's the thing. It's a critical part of a healthy, long-lasting relationship. Is the two people be sexually attracted to each other and have sexual intercourse and enjoy it and both be satisfied by it and stuff like that. That's critically important. But it's a pass-fail thing. Like your fifth slot function is an absolute value. You need that, but that's just a prerequisite. It's like you could have the best, most easiest, most comfortable and gratifying intercourse in the world, but if you don't have the same kind of perspective on certain things, you're going to have problems. Like, I've come to understand how important it is for Rachel and I to both be sevens. Hugely important. Because possibly the most like compatibility verifying fact about our relationship is that neither of us wants to be told to do it now. Neither of us wants to be reminded of, wants to be cajoled into being more productive or be held to account when they forget to do shit or anything like that. We want a lot of slack from each other and a little bit of encouragement and or assistance, but not but for that to not ever be the frame, We don't want things to be framed as, okay, once again we're checking on progress on logistics and other TE bullshit. We don't like it. Are gay men more feminine in their expression? Not necessarily. I've encountered people who purportedly are homosexuals that I didn't think of seemed like homosexuals. But, I'm no expert on homosexuals. So it's like my notion of what seems like a homosexual is that they seem like more like a girl, But that's just probably half of the homosexuals. Because from what I understand, talking to people around here, is that they take a specific role, either top or bottom, and that one of them is like the man and the other one's like the woman. So I don't know. I mean, I took gay film in college. I had to take a gay class,
Really?
I had to take a ladies class and I had to take a gay class. That was back at the beginning of all this bullshit, right?
That really is in the beginning.
I remember I wrote in my paper about gay film. I was like, well, it portrays them very stereotypically as a homosexual with his prancing and his limp-wristedness and his lispy talk and other like super gay, effeminate kind of behaviors. And like the teacher was like, they didn't like it. The teacher didn't like it. He was like, that's not your. Those things are. It's like basically my understanding of it was was sort of wrong. I guess I was sort of. It's like, okay, so I get it. Gays aren't like that. That's just a stereotype, right? That's what I'm supposed to learn from this? Gays aren't really like that. They aren't really like all effeminate and limp-wristed and stuff like that. That's what I'm supposed to glean from this class? Well, no, because like lots of them are like that. You're supposed to learn that that's okay in this class. You see? And so I was all, well, I mean, it makes me uncomfortable, frankly. They don't want to hear that.
And your approach to it was right.
Right. It's like, oh my God, we have to watch this film, and it's like, oh my God, those guys are kissing each other. Ew. I don't want to see that. No offense.
Poor Rose Derek. No, I wouldn't want to. I had to take a women's studies class, and my teacher did not like me because I consider myself a feminist, but I'm not all like, I don't know, like, Susan Banting's birthday or anything. Like, I'm not like studying up.
Okay, this is the first time I've heard some very important rumor. Very curious. L.A. Reid, formerly of The Voice, I believe, a judge for The Voice. Lawnmower is suggesting that he may, and this is just a rumor, okay, just a rumor, you're going to have to verify it for yourself. There may have been a little bit of Bieber fingering going on.
What does that mean? During the show?
Who knows? It just says, very shady behavior towards Bieber. I'm assuming it involves fingering. I don't know, though. Maybe they were just both members of Anal Records Anonymous.
I think.
Probably met there,
Aw. Yeah, they wanted to keep it anonymous.
And they're probably already anal records before the incident in question. Why do their values ought to be based on the natural law? And what even is the natural law? Eat or be eaten. The natural law tells us that everything that's natural is good, and everything that's unnatural is bad. Whose expression was very feminine as well? Mine? That's my most feminine expression.
Aw, it is.
Yeah,
Oh, it's like you're looking at a baby.
But am I being super feminine there?
Yeah.
In Japan, they see ultra masculinity as gay. Well, what do they consider ultra masculine? Like if you are like, hey, let's go play football and go to war, and well, I mean, look, creepy or not, Lawnmower, I would argue that was true. So Lawnmower says that L.A. Reid said about Bieber when he was 14 that he had a unique beauty like a girl. Mm-hmm. I mean, I actually think that was true. That's somebody who's good at recognizing talent and marketability, correctly articulating something about Bieber doesn't to me necessarily imply that something iffy was going on. I mean, so would an bipolar person like Eric enjoy being in a forest full of hungry bears or eating his own shit instead of normal food?
What?
I'll go with a forest full of bears instead of the latter one. Okay, if I get to choose. Guys in the gym complimenting each other's muscles. Is that masculine? I don't think that's a masculine behavior, really. Playing football, that's masculine, sure.
Yeah.
Like hiking, like camping.
Fishing.
Solving problems,
Hockey.
saying, hey, I ain't taking none of your shit.
Yeah.
That's masculine.
That is masculine.
About herself says, nice cock, bro. No, that's not masculine. That is not masculine, okay? There's nothing masculine about nice cock, bro.
I'm so glad I'm getting a lesson right now.
I want you to understand this so you don't make this mistake in the gym again, okay? Guys in gyms are testing the water in their gayness. I do suspect that going to the gym correlates more strongly with homosexuals than say going to a football game. But I would suggest that going to the gym correlates even more strongly with being a censor than that. But even intuitives will end up in the gym. A lot of intuitives will. Rachel used to go to the gym with her 4th slot SE, 3rd slot SE, ENFJs, ENTJs. You're going to see a lot of them in the gym. You're not going to see many INTPs or INFPs or ENTPs. Or ENFPs probably.
My dad goes every day.
Your dad does? Okay. So, even some...
It's more of a... He takes it more as a spa kind of thing. He has his stuff that he does for his heart. So he does the physical therapy because my dad had quadruple bypass in 2014. So he does the routines they told him, and there's a massage chair that you can use at the end of your workout, and that's his thing. That's his way of pampering himself. Plus also keeping on top of his heart, which is very responsible of him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. If going to a football game is hella gay, how about judging a wet t-shirt contest? Okay, there's nothing gay about that. There's nothing gay about judging a wet t-shirt contest. So, okay, on the one end of it, we have going to the gym. Now, that's not nearly as gay as judging a wet t-shirt contest is straight. Okay, so we need to find an equivalent. I guess the equivalent for gays would be judging a moist Speedo contest.
Oh my gosh. Or, you know what? Wait, for women?
No, if you're a homosexual woman, then you, I guess, judge the wet t-shirt contest with me.
True.
Yeah, you could join me in the wet t-shirt.
The homosexuals can judge the fire department because they usually have contests to determine who's going to be Mr. July.
Who gets to polish the pole in the fire station?
Exactly.
Okay, guys having water gun fights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is fencing gay? No, fencing's not gay. Fencing has swords. Swords aren't gay.
It's puffy.
Okay, it's a little bit hoity-toity. It's like polo,
Yeah.
But polo players and fencers are not any more likely to be gay than, I tell you what's gay: diving.
That is definitely
Diving is gay as gay can be. Gymnastics. That's a straight up just homosexually dominated sport. You're not going to find a lot of straight men who want to tumble. They just aren't going to. There's not a lot of tumblers, not a lot of baton twirlers either in amongst the straight male community.
Oh, ice skating too.
Ice skating, also a very gay sport.
Yeah.
We're talking about men participating in these sports. Okay, so, and then if they were ever to actually begin allowing male synchronized swimming in the Olympics as an event, that would be the single gayest sport of all. Or, I know, men's rhythmic gymnastics. Extremely gay sport. Ice hockey's not gay. Ice skating.
Heterosexual.
Ice dancing and ice skating are gay.
Ice skating, yeah.
See,
hockey is more heterosexual.
what they do is they have a table, a booth at the ice rink, okay? And when you approach with your child, they say to the child, gay or straight? And if they say gay, they go, welcome to ice skating lessons and ice dancing. And if they say straight, they go, here's your hockey team. That's how it works. Everybody knows that. You play semi-professional rugby? Okay, so it's
That's
confirmed.
great.
Rugby is a gay sport. If Sam plays it, it must be a gay sport. It's super gay. You can tell it's super gay. Why? Because they don't have helmets. Why? Because they like to look into each other's beautiful eyes while they're tackling.
There's a lot of men touching in that
A
game.
lot of man touching. A lot of man touching in football, too.
You're right. They do each other pass on. And baseball. Baseball got the butt taps.
So we're talking about tennis being the straightest sport. You stay on your side, I'll stay on my side. It's like going to the movies with another man.
Golf, too.
Well, but in golf, you got a caddy who's like, you're bending over and he's touching your shoulder and going like this. You know?
Yeah.
Rachel and I watched a weird movie last night. We watched this Abbott and Costello movie called Mexican Hayride from 1948, black and white. And there's this scene where Abbott, he's painting somebody, right? So he's going like this, trying to look at her, and he's getting painting her. And then when they turn around his painting, he's just been painting his thumb the whole time. Hilarious.
That was.
Sumo wrestling, gay or nah? Sumo wrestling is post-sexual, I think it's fair to say. It's post-sexual.
Okay, but what about like WWE?
Well, that's that. It's called your I guess it's the combo punch up for teenage boys before they figured themselves out yet.
That's what I was thinking.
What do I like about this wrestling thing? Do I like the warfare aspect of it? No, I'd be straight. If I like the man handling aspect of it, then I must be gay.
Yeah, wrestling, like real wrestling, pretty gay. Your face is in the private parts a lot.
Archery's pretty straight, I guess. Sure, unless you're shooting Cupid's arrows, in which case swimming's like a big gay bath. Probably. I wouldn't be. That doesn't surprise me. They don't wear a lot of clothing, you know. Regular wrestling, historically known as one of the gayer sports, but I actually don't think the people who participated in it are gay. I think they go into swimming and diving because probably, or rugby, of course. But who knows?
It's pretty homosexual, regular wrestling.
Is it?
Yeah. You get up in each other's private parts a lot.
What about male cheerleading? If that were the case, then that should be straight because they get up in the females' private parts a lot.
That's what Bring It On shows, right? One of them is gay and one of them is not.
Well, because they got to hold her up by her butt, and then you know.
And then he like puts his finger.
Yeah, he fingers her a little bit every time. Then pretty soon she's like, I only want Barry to lift me during the lifts. I only trust Barry.
Yeah.
As soon as she didn't say anything the first time, he knew it was in like playing. He was gonna say something. She was gonna say something after he put her down and the routine was over, but then she just kind of looked at him and kind of blushed and scurried away.
You know what's another all this talk about? My dad always said if you watched like in Clueless, if you remember, she thinks that guy could just because he like.
Oh, you're the guy who's gay, but
yeah.
And the black girl's boyfriend says he's a cake boy.
Yeah.
I remember never having heard that expression prior to that movie.
Me neither. And he's like, yeah, he uses a bunch of terms. And she can't tell, but he like Spartacus That's known as a homosexual movie.
Spartacus is a homosexual movie?
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's what my dad said.
Is gardening gay? I don't think so.
No.
I like to garden.
It's not gay.
Well, I like to do a lot of gay things. You know, I like to watch movies with my girlfriend. That's pretty gay. I like to wear flamboyant clothing sometimes. That's pretty gay.
Yeah. That sexy hat.
Mm-hmm. I like to, you know, be compassionate and worry about people's feelings sometimes. That's pretty gay.
Yeah. Mhm. You show your feelings during during television shows and stuff.
I watch Brokeback Mountain over and over and over and over again.
No.
That's pretty gay.
No, that's such a sad. Like,
I've never seen that.
oh, it's a great love story. It truly, actually, legitimately is a great love story, but it's so sad. Oh.
Is horse racing gay? I'm gonna say no. Is hot dog eating gay?
What if you're the...
Yes. Hot dog eating contests are extremely gay.
Ew.
Yes. Whatever you mean by that word, yes. I hate hot dog
I
eating
can't
contests, though.
stand them either.
You know, it's like, God, that's so gross.
Yeah, like when your dad shows me pictures of it,
Ugh.
like I've never been to it because I'm not gonna stand out in the middle of like the summer watching these people gorge on hot dogs. Oh, it's so gross.
See, the thing is, I'm pretty sure, like, there aren't really any pure lesbians, you know? They probably all want a little bit of occasional penis, I would suspect.
I'd agree with that. You just don't want to stick with it. It's not their preference.
I never saw the movie. Jake raped Keith.
Teeth?
Lawnmower says in that movie Brokeback is that Jake Gyllenhaal raped Heath Ledger.
No, there was no raping.
There was love, okay?
Yeah,
That was no rape, that was love.
That literally, they loved each other. And Heath Ledger decided in that movie that he didn't want to live that kind of life. He wasn't ready for that. So he dips on Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay, Raphael watched and enjoyed the whole Twilight Saga. Level of gaiety, 8. It's a solid 8 on the gaiety level. And gaiety scale. So good job there, Raphael.
Yeah.
We're all trying to be more diversity friendly. And what does that mean? It means embracing gaiety wherever we can find it. You know? Of course I blow guys. What do you think? I'm a bigot? It's something that Spacey said to me one time. That was funny.
It is funny. Spacey seemed like a...
Spacey's great. Yeah. Spacey's great. I called him the other day. We need to call him again.
Yeah.
Chat with Spacey. I'd like to. Is dancing gay? Totally. So gay, but so much a good way to get into a girl's pants. If you're good at dancing, see, the reason dancing has to be gay is because otherwise there'd be no chicks left for us non-dancers. You know, there'd be no chicks left for us non-dancers because everybody knows that gay people dance better than straight people, and that girls love it when you dance with them. But I'm not. That's not a good way for me to get into girls' pants because I'm a terrible dancer. You know. So the gays have a big advantage. Fortunately, presumably, they don't want to hump my girl because they're gay. Horseshoes, hand grenades, and slow dancing. Close only counts in. Great point, Waldo. Great point.
What?
Horseshoes, hand grenades, and slow dancing.
I like that.
Me too. Everyone should see me play my big organ. You know, I don't doubt that everyone would like to see that. Unfortunately, there are some dreams that must go untrimmed. Is debating gay? Debating is so totally not gay. Some of the arguments are totally super ultra gay, though. There are whole AFs on, like heteronormative stuff. And pipe organists are almost all gay. Is that true? Is there a large amount of gaiety in the pipe organist community?
Yeah, I'm
Interesting. That's why they have cold contact as a thing. Eric, watch the girl dance with the gay guy, and walk up and introduce yourself. Oh, let's see.
That's such like an 80s move.
Hey, looks like you're really enjoying dancing with this gentleman here. I want to thank you, Barry, for keeping my girl company while I was sitting over on the side not dancing. I appreciate that. Since you are such a good dancer, I can conclude, obviously, you're homosexual. And I will simply assume you're no threat. Come on, darling. Is that how it works? The flute. The flute. I used to force Bob Jones students to support atheism in my LD debates. How did you manage to force that? You'd run anti-atheism stuff and make them counter it, or what? Oh, atheism good. Jethro Tull. I would not insult homosexuals by linking them to Jethro Tull. Okay, that's not fair. Jethro Tull is not gay.
What about
It's
the Bee
terrible.
Gees?
Bee Gees are great and pretty gay.
Yeah, they're great.
Very,
yes.
very gay, but
yeah.
they don't actually contain any gays, I don't believe. the
No.
Bee Gees. But, for example,
Queen.
Queen is the awesomest gay band at all
Yeah.
time. Queen, talk about a high quality musical artist.
Yeah.
Freddie Mercury, but the whole band, but I think it was mostly him as the visionary. Was a genius, absolute genius. He's got great shit. Good point, Morris. Good point.
What?
How are you gonna know? You have to test everything. How am I gonna know I don't like stabbing this thing to my arm?
That's a good point.
Dancing shows a level of body control, and it's the same thing as for fighting skills, which is naturally attractive to girls. So you're saying that girls like dancing guys because they assume the guys can fight better? Subconsciously? There's this weird thing that a fair number of men seem to ascribe to, which is that women are slaves to, like, sexual biology, whereas men are independent human beings. Right? It's like, well, the thing is, women all do meow, 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 that kind of shit, This is the problem, you see. Women are susceptible to... Because why? Well, because, at the end of the day, they just cannot get their mind off of schlong. Styx is a terrible gay band. I like Styx, actually. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that I like Styx because Styx is good. That would be a bold statement that maybe would be a little further than I want to go. I do think they have some good songs. There was one Styx song that Rachel was playing for me a while back there.
Too much time.
Too much time? Okay, we'll have to check that out.
No, there's another one.
I actually like Styx, is the thing. One of my favorite albums as a kid was Mr. Roboto.
Mm-hmm.
I had that album, listened to it over and over again. Domo, domo,
I like
domo,
Styx.
domo, 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 domo.
I had a summer where I really rocked out to Styx, so I appreciate it.
Yes, Sean Ryan Barron, I do see INTPs mistype themselves as INFP. And the way it happens is this. Often they will conclude they are INTP for quite a long time. And during that time period, they will be researching. And of course, since they're in a tool function, they will conclude that perhaps they've got more awareness or involvement of the interested calculus, the FI stuff, in them than they'd originally thought. And then they go, okay, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm an INTP or an INFP. And then you go, no, you're an INTP. And they go, yeah, but... And then they come with a bunch of any shit, you know?
So INTPs think they're INFPs?
After a while, they'll go through an INFP phase where they think they're INFPs. INFPs, meanwhile, are much more likely to settle on being INFPs. They're not... INFPs are one of those types that they don't want to be anything other than what they authentically are. And so their FI is a lot better in that way than a tool function FI that confuses you about what's true. Theirs actually provides guidance on what's true. It's just that what's true is not really... It's something personal to them that you may not understand is true, you know?
I was just going to say that pretty much like every INFP that I met, like... didn't really question it. Like, actually, they told me before I was, like, even, like, they would tell me, oh, I'm INFP.
Email Anthrax says, no, Eric, INFPs want to be INFJs.
Well...
Now, if they're going to be confused, or they're going to be more confused like that, you're right about this, email Anthrax. If an INFP is going to mistype themselves, they're not going to mistype themselves as an INTP, they're going to mistype themselves as an INFJ.
Yeah.
And, I just typed an INFJ the other day who mistyped herself as an INFP. Why? Well, she had gotten certified by Personality Hacker and heard a bunch of descriptions and correlations and other nonsense that is not very, very useful in typing yourself, and so she was confused, Understandably. If she's her NI is trying to go to work on all this NE and trying to figure out what's true, and all this NE is being presented as sort of fact, or is based on certain assumptions that aren't stated, and it's got to be frustrating for an INFJ who's looking through this morass of different understandings for the truth, but has to base their NI knowledge on some sort of metric, so they're going to assume that these pieces of information are accurate and base their NI on that, What would an INFJ type themselves as? Well, this last INFJ typed themselves as INFP, but typically, the most common thing I see with INFJs is they're INFJs, they know they're INFJs, and they want me to type them because they know that it's too challenging going through life as a member of the typology community saying you're an INFJ, because you're always going to be challenged about it. But if you can say instead, well, Eric typed me as an INFJ, then you're not making the claim, right? So I get that a lot. Or somebody like Rachel, who is like this other INFJ that was confused by this morass of different contradictory information and so forth. And so, yeah.
It's made my life make so much more sense. Like, instead of fighting with things within my being, I'm more like understanding. Really, like my whole ontology.
I mean, you are a knowing type, right? So it's like INFJs need to know some things and rely on those knowledges to structure how they interface. And if important things about their own identity seem knowable but as yet unknown, it's going to be distressing to them.
Very.
Third, the 3DR Nomad says I got typed ENTP by Spacey. Cool. I mean, I think Spacey's probably a pretty reliable typologist. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but assuming he hasn't gotten worse, I think he's quite competent. There's no other typologist besides myself that I'd recommend is preferable to Spacey. Systematic oppression of INFJs. It's the cost of doing business the way you do business, I guess. If you want to successfully manage people's perceptions, you're gonna get these kind of glowing descriptions of you, and then everyone's gonna want to be you.
Knowing the cognitive functions is so important because more than just like me understanding myself, I am more patient with others.
Is it true that INFJ men are rather effeminate? Well, sort of. I guess it depends what you consider effeminate. My friend Corey, I mean, concerned with the things that I guess conventionally women are more concerned with, but not doesn't come across as feminine, you know, like intuitive, sensitive in some sense, not comfortable with the kind of brutishness of unnuanced responses to things. So, you know, there's sort of underlying sorrow in INFJs to see that so much of what they do is pearls before swine. I went to high school in the 70s and was in band. You had flute players trying to be the next Jethro Tull. I don't think that statement directly implies that men aren't slaves to the post. Conversely, which statement doesn't? I want to know. Inquiring Erics want to know. The more I look into MBTI, the more I get lost. Well, just don't look in places that provide confusing metaphor and misinformation and or disinformation and or just partial understandings that are confusing. If Jung is INFJ, I don't see that. He doesn't project it in body language. I mean, do you see my video? I typed this video on him? Is that what you're responding to? I mean, that's the thing, Karma's pimp. That sounds like a very NI approach towards typology in general, in the sense that you're, I guess you, yeah, so I don't think INFJs necessarily come across to other people, INFJ men come across as effeminate. I don't think anybody would, if asked to come up with adjectives for Corey, would say effeminate as anywhere near the top of the list. What I was just answering by saying that at the same time, I don't think many people would describe him as especially masculine. He's not. He's a knower, right? He's not a doer. So it's a tough question to answer. I wouldn't say they're feminine, but I would say they don't come across as especially masculine. A type doesn't hinge on what one wants, otherwise it wouldn't be a type, and any form of taxonomy would be utterly meaningless. Well, it doesn't hinge on what one wants in the moment, for sure, but it describes one's relationship with what one wants in general as part of one's personality. So it is conceivable that I agree, it doesn't hinge on it. But not all indications of what one wants are fluid like that. Some of them are structural. Like, it's fair to say that I want I want novelty, and I want opportunities to express myself and engage ideationally with people. Those things are structurally true rather than just momentarily true. So in that regard, if you were to talk about what I want linking to type, it would be not an unreasonable thing to do, right? Okay, well, I mean, look, if people mean that what I want links to my type, and that because right now I want to go to the library, I must be a thinking type, and because right now I want to go have dinner, I must be a SI type. Well, I don't think there's anybody out there who's saying that, and obviously that would be silly. So I would suspect that probably it's mostly about mjärdi-mjäs. If you haven't seen a mjärdi-mjä deep inside your heart, then you haven't been a mjärdi-mjä. It's time to do your part. If you'd like to bring some mjärdi-mjä, then I'll say, hey, mjärdi-mjä, I always want dinner that makes me fat. That's what Waldo says. I've recently discovered I'm INFJ after testing INFP. It never felt right, and after understanding INFJ cognitive functions, everything makes sense to me. Okay, Lorna. Well, I'm glad to hear that. The thing that I've determined is that people often, if they're including both those types in their thinking, that, and there's a challenge between determining between them, that it's a difference between understanding what qualifies as FI and NI. So NI is holistic, but FI is absolute, and the distinction there is sometimes difficult to understand. I'm not saying it is for you, Lorna. I'm just saying, and in the case of the last woman that I typed, she thought she was INFP, and I typed her INFJ. That was exactly what was going on. She misunderstood NI, thought it was FI, that, like, basically, or that instances of FI that may have been genuine meant she was an FI front stack person. Is there legitimate proof that INFJ is the rarest? No, I don't. Like I've said many times before, I don't trust the stats on frequency at all, because the way the data was gathered and determined. I don't trust the tests that were used to determine the types of the people in the group that they tested, and I also don't trust that the group that they tested was a good example of the general population. So they tested a first year freshman psychology class full of nothing but college freshmen taking psychology. Whereas the general population is possibly not represent doesn't it probably intuitives would be overrepresented in a college population at the time when that study was taken, which was back a ways. Be overrepresented compared to the general population. Regardless, if I don't trust the test that is typing these individuals, then obviously I don't trust any data about the frequency of some types or other types. And my experience in life is that there are some types that are very rare. You know, my experience in life is that I've had one INFJ in my life that I know and have met that I can think of, and that's Corey. Until I started doing this stuff. You know, this stuff means obviously I come into contact with a lot of INFJs. Does that mean INFJs are common? No, it means one thing that is true about typology is it can tell you how well a couple of people are going to get along pretty reliably. I was able to predict before I ever introduced them that my dad and Cameron were going to get along great because they were ESTJ, ISTJ. They're going to get along very quickly. They're going to seem like they are of the same mindset. They're going to see a like-minded individual standing across from them and really be able to, like, oh, you're someone I can talk to, blah, 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 you know? And in fact, that's exactly what happened. So I do think that's you know, it's one way you could validate the system to some extent is you can make predictions about how people are going to interact with how they're going to like other people and stuff based on that if they happen to be interacting with certain types. There's only some predictions you can make, but regardless, INFJs and ENTPs get along well. We're naturally compatible or complementary. We're naturally complementary. I provide a lot of NE, and that means the NI knower can sit in a very comfortable spot of having lots of stuff being thrown out for them to know about. And in this particular context here, where the INFJ gets to be in the chat and not have their face in front of people, not have to have their voice be part of it too. Some of the more introverted ones are less comfortable with publicly being, you know, out there, and some of the more, you know, less introverted ones are more comfortable with it. Corey was always one of the, seemed to me, less introverted ones, at least in terms of being comfortable with making media public. But since then, he's become much more private, and I don't know. Rachel's pretty comfortable being out in front of people. But I would also say she gets, you know, she's comfortable retiring from being in front of the camera fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. That, you know, she doesn't find it as natural and easy an environment as I do. You're a very depressed INFJ. I have a very small number of close friends. I'm usually fine with social stuff. It's just awkward. Okay, well, the thing is, INFJs don't necessarily have a lot of friends. That's a misnomer. Or a misconception. That's what I should say. A misconception. When you say you're very depressed, what do you mean by that? Do you mean you have trouble getting out of bed? Do you mean you cry all the time? Or do you just mean like you're bored or what? I was referring to wanting to be given a given type to versus what you classifiably are in actuality. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do want to be a given type. That's true. And I can have some frustration with dealing with those people. If somebody comes in wanting to confirm that they're the type they want to be, wanting me to confirm they're the type they want to be, there's a couple of possibilities. One of them I already talked about is that the INFJ, it's an INFJ who wants me to tell them they're INFJ so that they don't have to say, I am an INFJ by my own reasoning. Rather, can you say, well, host Eric typed me as INFJ. The other possibility is that they are, say, an ESFP, or possibly an ENFP, or possibly ISFP, ISFJ. These types are prone to ICJ. These types are prone to coming in, thinking they're a different type than they are, and then not wanting to accept it when they're told what type they are. And the reason for this is because that's experiential knowing and personal particularist deliberation, FISI. Those two things contribute to the ability of a person to distinguish what's universally so from what's particularly so. If you're in full particularist mode, attentional manner correlates most strongly to the particularist. So, my SEFI, FISE, TE, SI, SITE, those types are going to be most difficult to convince. ISFJ seems to be difficult to convince too, because of course particularists first, and INFP if they're in disagreement with you. But INFPs don't feel the need to share with me what their conclusion is. They're taking away all the things I'm telling them, including what type I think they are, and withholding judgment until they get to take it home later, after they get to turn off their camera, and then they're home alone now, and then they get to spend time feeling their way through what that just happened, and then they draw a conclusion that either I'm right or wrong, but they don't feel any need to share that with me, because they're my supervisor type, and don't view my opinion as very meaningful about anything, ultimately. Right. So the type that's most likely to say, you can't define me, you don't know me, is ESFP. I've heard that from ESFP plenty. But ISFP might also say that. The ISTJ, ISFJ is instead going to say, give me a bunch of examples of their experience that contradicts something I said or some other understanding they have about a type. Okay, so we're going to have a short intermission here while I smoke this cigarette, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to play for you the very exciting musical selections of my my host Eric's Greatest Hits playlist. And that will help everyone to know the truth of wonder and the wonder of truth, all together forever at last. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so we are going now to go to the... First, let me do this. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to push the Mia, so you can see the Mia. Here it is. Go back to the Mia. And I'm going to go to the Mia. right, everybody. And away we go.
30,000 days. Too many expectations. Not even worth a damn. 30,000 nights to sleep off the intoxication. Otherwise, you won't escape the plan. I wasted half my days trying on another's way. But who can tell me my priorities? Is there anybody knows the key? 'Cause I'm tired of doing it wrong. Want direction and have all along. Wait until I know. Until I know. Or is that just hesitation? Clarity's no good once your chance is gone. What I need to show. Is it so below my station? I'm tired of doing it wrong. I wasted half my days trying on others' ways. Who can tell me my priorities? Is there anybody knows the key? 'Cause I think I'm doing this wrong. 'Cause I think I'm doing this wrong. Doing this wrong. If Jesus was people but absent of sin, he must then have struggled with regular men and women, of course, when they too were present. Disciples all warily eyeing the lesson. Betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Living naively is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. If people were Jesus, they'd know what they think, and everyone's word would be true. And feelings once spoken would sit where they sink, and we'd all know just what to do. Once they're betrayed, the easy believing forever is lost. Living naively is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. The one you thought you knew, acts like you never have met. The life you made for two, has faded into regret. No one unshaken, we all have been shook, but being forsaken don't mean you're forsook. Though in the past you've been hung out to dry, we'll find them at last. We just have to try. People aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Living naively is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. Maybe naivety is not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. Out of rock, rock and roll, bring around those heavy to be so hard. Circa 1984, gotta rock. You are so hot, I don't know what I thought. Listening to that jazz and country shot. When I should know you go down. Gotta rock. After all your talk to the very rockin' it. Gotta rock, I roll. Roll your pancakes on my junk. Oh, rock your uncle up too much wine. Oh, rock those pancakes for your lunch. And oh, roll up in front of you in line. I'm the guy to rock. Like a rockin' block, a rockin' block. Separate the Lord to rock a like I know. So few who do to rock, I knows that you do not rock. Just like this rockin' every dock. After all your talk to the very rockin' it. Gotta rock, I roll all night. I rock all day. Feel yourself like every day. Have your brunch, don't interrupt my rock and roll. Blow your mind. I rock your mimosas like Dave's mine. I roll your pancakes on my junk. I'm gonna pop for your lunch. Gotta rock. A rockin' shock. A rockin' flock of rockin' blocks. I pray the Lord to rock a lot. Rock, damn, I gotta rock, rock. So rock, every talking. After all the talking, the rockin' it. Gotta rock, gotta rock, gotta rock, gotta rock, gotta rock, gotta rock.
Got a story about 10 years old. It's a song for an open road, and such a thing must always do its job. She married up Jeff, turned 19, 4 years in and 3 kids weaned. Weary now and questioning the past. Agency out, pays his discretion, locking in our courses, way too young. The urgency conferred is really just depression, making sure those underneath them always run. Doug at 20 found bourbon fun, likewise Doug at 21, and so forth well up into middle age. What he once thought would set him free became his whole identity. Now Doug's about another drunken rage. Agency out, face his discretion, locking in our courses, way too young. The urgency conferred is really just depression, making sure those underneath them always run. Everybody's panicked about the kids, lock them up with extra dexedrine and mathematics to promote success, or to impose more unjust duress. Agency out, face his discretion, locking in our courses, way too young. The urgency conferred is really just depression, making sure those underneath them always run. Without consent, it's really just oppression by parasites surviving while they feed their fear of dying. Yes, they feed upon the futures of the young.
God damn it, we were promised a plague. Bodies in the street. So we had to flatten the curve. Not overburden healthcare, sir. But you see, it's been underburdened. Gee, cause this COVID thing's been so exaggerated. We have been lied to, fooled, misguided, directed to the wrong side. Your cherry picking art is not gonna work. You don't know your stats, your data gathering methodologies are crap. Listen here, if you only test the sickest, fuck you think is gonna be the trick. Stupid and scared. COVID-19 destroy everything for the impression you bring. Stupid and scared. COVID-19 destroy everything for the impression you bring. Stupid and scared, scared and dumb. We swallow the gum. Scared. COVID-19 destroy everything for the impression you bring. Stupid and scared. COVID-19 destroy everything for the impression you bring. Much noise in the data stream, loud enough to disrupt everybody's dreams. Frustrations mean mistakes are made, until it seems separate bodies throwing shade. I won't be just another casualty of other people's well-intentioned rules. I used to think that from tomorrow there'd be time for yesterday. It's not the sort of thing that one can borrow. No one willing still to lend a day. Your uncertainty's implicit, just like an unexpected visit from a bunch of men all dressed in blue suits. I won't be just another casualty of other people's well-intentioned rules. I used to think that some tomorrow there'd be time for yesterday. Well, there's a herd of cattle and a flock of birds. School up, fishes, it's a spew of words. Campaign of battles, a collection of churns. Cause farmers milk chattel for a cup's worth of curds. And a lip flap of tattlers telling on burn for disrupting the arrangement of a blossom of ferns. Confers a shameful burden that burn deserves, or so say the tattlers telling on burn. Bats are colonial, bees are swarmy. A quiver's worth of cobra res is making me horny. Got a cat named Capillo and a dog named Bird. Cassiopeia is the name of my bird. There's no clouder for my cat. Bird has no pack. Got no grip of badgers, cause badgers attack. And the same goes for weasels, which come in a sack. But my Cassie's in a murder and they're all in black. Nobody's coming alone today. Nobody's alone. All of the creatures gather up their crews. Gather their crews. You lions, your pride, exaltation, a doves, a downfall, a slides, and one pair of gloves. There's a pot of whales, bristle grace, box of nails, swath of lace, sniff the jays, frown of fails, canamace, town of jails, whole crash of rhinos, and a knot of toads. Porcupines form a prickle crowd in the roads, drive a drove of pigs, and yoke a team of oxen. Save a smack a jellyfish caught up in pots. Nobody's coming alone today. Nobody's alone. All of the creatures gather up their crews. Gather their crews. Everybody's gonna have a friend. Everybody's gonna Nobody's coming alone today.
Nobody's alone.
All of the creatures gather up their crews.
Gather their crews.
Oh, he came here with her. And what's the big problem that you can't endure? You seem so sure it's not appropriate blaming to blame things on Scott. Despite getting caught, he's got you reframing for him, straining for him, going to the gym, make yourself good enough again. Yeah, you guys both have lots invested. That's not a reason to stay around. Through the years, you've both been tested. Time to move up. Find higher ground. So he came here with her. And what's the big problem that you can't endure? You seem so sure it's not appropriate blaming to blame things on Scott. Despite getting caught, he's got you reframing for him, straining for him, going to the gym, make yourself good enough again. Be done with him.
I'd just been sad, I gave up long ago. Was sometimes mad, but bad was all I'd ever know. Since sad was all I'd been, I'd only mope and pout until I met a man named Ken who showed me how to whisper shout.
I'm rich, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the best. I'm rich, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the best.
I'd just been sad, I gave up long ago. Was sometimes mad, but bad was all I'd ever know. Since sad was all I'd been, I'd only mope and pout until I met a man named Ken who showed me how to whisper shout.
I'm rich, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the best. I'm rich, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the best. I'm rich, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest, I'm the best. I'm rich.
I'd just been sad, I gave up long ago.
I'm the greatest.
Was sometimes mad, but bad was all I'd ever known.
I'm the greatest.
Since sad was all I'd been, I'd only mope and pout.
I'm the best.
Till I met a man named Ken who showed me how to whisper shout.
I'm rich. I'm the best. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. I'm the best. I'm rich. I'm the best. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. I'm the best.
What's the matter with? Okay, I'm back. We're gonna go to the store here. Yeah, that's actually Ken. Ken Combs. He was that song came about the Whisper Shout song came about because I was actually making a video of clips from the Raw Room, which used to be fairly active, and I was putting some music underneath it, and the music I put underneath it was just happened to line up with the clip that I was working with in the video that where Ken was making fun of another person in the room, namely Kato, because Kato was ESTP, I think, and probably ESTP, and he would be like, you know, oh my God, I'm gonna be so, you know, he'd say this. He might have been an ESFP, I don't know. He'd say all this self-aggrandizing stuff. So Ken was making fun of him, going, "I'm rich, I'm the best, I'm the greatest," you know. And that shit he was saying happened to line up with the music that I was using, which was the Whisper Shout music there. And so then I made the rest of the verse part of the song around that, you know, and referencing that. And that's how that song came to be. So that is actually Ken. And I said, you know, I talked to him about it afterwards. I was like, you know, oh, you know that part where you were saying that stuff? And he's like, oh, you mean whisper shouting? I was like, oh, is that what that's called? Is that a whisper shout? So, that's how that song came about. Anyway, we've got to go to the store and get some food because it's dinner time, and I want to get supermarket chicken. If you've not done the supermarket chicken thing before, let me recommend it. If you go to basically any supermarket in America, they're gonna have these roasted chickens there, you know.
Yeah.
This is my invisible weed bottle.
Cool.
This is how I sneak through the airport security. I just have my invisible weed bottle. You can't see it at all. Anywho, what was I saying? Something about something hugely important. What do you think the most musical types of the MBTI? Well, I would suspect it's INTP, ENTP, INFJ, and ENFJ. I think it's the most metaphysical types. That's what I think. That's what I think. But INTPs are probably the least likely to actually make music of those types.
Should I try one of those pickles, or they haven't been refrigerated?
Yeah, I think we'll probably end up just tossing them. It's hot, drink water. Okay, well, that's good advice. Oh, well, okay. Let me stress this. INTJs are probably the best at the skills. So it's like, for example, when I needed to learn about music production and needed some tips on how to EQ and some other tips because I was just sort of reaching a plateau and I wanted some information. I wanted some help. I asked an INTJ, and I trusted the fact that he understood the how-tos of music production, mastering, mixing, and so forth better than I did, and that he's going to be, you know, top person to ask. However, so that's true. I don't mean to underestimate the INTJs in that regard, and they probably have a great ear, you know, an equivalently good ear, another NIDOM, right? Same with ENFPs. I guess what I'm saying, I shouldn't have said the most musical types. I should have said the types most able to attain musical aesthetics that are correct, which is a little different, you know. So it's like you'll see INTJ will be very good in the aesthetics of the particular. So their shit will be extremely well mixed, extremely well mastered. They'll have a great, you know, usage of the frequency range, having instruments sitting in their own spot, all that kind of cool stuff, you know. You want an INTJ to to be the one who's the sound guy for your show. But they like the Dave Matthews Band. Let's just leave it at that. Plenty of they'll either like the Dave Matthews Band, or they like Ragecore, or some other awful shit, you know.
Ragecore is popular.
So Spacey, for example, look, okay. Spacey's an example of what INTPs get wrong. Spacey wants to listen to stuff that's too weird, that's too NE. He's got too much tool function going on there. It's like he wants always to listen to new stuff and underground stuff and lo-fi stuff and all kinds of different weird stuff, right? He's focused too much on what's cool and interesting and not what's good, you know? So, but overall, his taste in music is generally good. If you ask him about a specific thing, he'll probably say right things about it, but he won't think it matters the sort of holistic understanding of whether something's a good in a grander sense of the word.
That's where INFJ benefits INTPs.
All right. Alright, so anyway, we decided to go. I could argue with you guys all day about how, to the extent that you deviate from exactly my opinion about music, that your opinion is wrong. But that would probably be unproductive. Probably make us both feel a little bit bad. So instead, I'm going to say, hey, you're entitled to your opinion. Any tips on self-typing? Don't do it. You're doomed to disaster. Pay me to do it instead.
It works for me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Who knows?
These are the yams.
Maybe you'll be like Rachel and not only end up with a type, but a new boyfriend.
Yep.
Won't be me, but who knows? Maybe it'd be Isaiah Rude.
Yeah.
You're smoking. Any tips on finding your polar? Well, you can do the TI tests, etc. Okay, I got a splits.
Bye, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.